Hello, everyone. Welcome to Read Through the Word. Today is Saturday, September 7th. Today, our lesson is called Integrity and Power. And our key verse comes from Daniel 5, 16 and 17. And then I also included 29 on the end of that. I am told that you can give, this is the king talking to Daniel. There was this, for the king, there was this writing on the wall, and he wanted to know what it meant. And so the queen says, hey, you need to talk to Daniel. He helped previous kings. And so the king says to Daniel, I am told that you can give interpretations and solve difficult problems. If you can read these words and tell me their meaning, you will be clothed in purple robes of royal honor, and you will have a gold chain placed around your neck. You will become the third highest ruler in the kingdom. Daniel answered the king, keep your gifts or give them to someone else, but I will tell you what the writing means. And then to verse 29, then at Belshazzar's command, Daniel was dressed in purple robes, a gold chain was hung around his neck, and he was proclaimed the third highest ruler in the kingdom. Something really struck me about this verse. I want to talk about a little bit of history first. Sometimes, in Old Testament history, the history of certain kings, who was king when, sometimes there's different names for a certain king. We might have the Babylonian name, or we might have a Hebrew name. Sometimes there's just time discrepancies of when a certain king stepped in. So I always like to understand my history. I found this great history in the Archaeological Bible. I will also quote it in the notes to help you. I'm going to read it. It was really helpful to me because I like to know my history. So this is the history of Belshazzar. Nebuchadnezzar was not his dad, which is what I thought. But let me read this for you. It helped me. In Daniel chapter 5, he is referred to, Belshazzar, as the son of Nebuchadnezzar. This conforms with general Semitic usage in which one's descendants is often referred to as son. Nebuchadnezzar died in 562 BC after a 42-year reign and was followed by Amel-Marduk, the Evil-Merodach of Jeremiah 52:31, and 2 Kings 25:27. Evil-Merodach was replaced by Mergal Shar-usar, who reigned from 560 to 556 and was succeeded in turn by Labasi-Marduk, his weak son, who reigned for only a few months and then was overthrown by revolution. One of the conspirators, Nabonidus, then ascended the throne. Though a revolutionary, he was still a man of culture and religious zeal for the gods of Babylon. He is sometimes styled, quote, the world's first archaeologist. Nabonidus was the last true king of Babylon and the father of Belshazzar. Nabonidus made Belshazzar co-regent when he retired to Arabia, presumably to consolidate the weakening empire. This explains Belshazzar's offer reward to Daniel of becoming the third highest ruler in the kingdom. The Nabonidus Chronicle was written after the capture of Babylon, and 539 BC, Cyrus of Persia claimed that he had been able to take the city without a struggle. Going on to describe his leniency towards the population and regarding himself as an enlightened despot and executioner of the will of the gods. His estimation of the character of Belshazzar was exceedingly low, not at all out of harmony with what is presented in the biblical account. So that was really helpful to me to see sort of the genealogy of the kings leading up to Belshazzar and how he became king. Interesting too to see Cyrus's perspective on things. So, and he had a low opinion of them. It said Cyrus apparently had a low opinion of Belshazzar, which again, that's in keeping with the biblical account, isn't it? So anyway, after Belshazzar, his life is, we know that Daniel's prophecy, or Daniel's, the meaning of the dream comes true, as Daniel said. His life was taken that night, and Darius the Mede becomes king, and Daniel remains in his administrator capacity. Now, you're looking at, all of this background of kings, and, they were awful. And then, there was a revolution, and they were fighting for power. And so there was all this mess going on. Belshazzar was awful too. And he says to Daniel, hey, I'll give you all this stuff, right? Purple robes, gold chain hung around your neck, third highest ruler in the land. And Daniel says, you can keep it. And amidst all of this backdrop and this setting and this story, I just find it interesting that you have this man who's like, I do not care about all your power and your riches and these things that you're offering me. I care about my integrity, and I care about upholding the integrity of my God. And that really struck me. And it reminded me actually of, I've had many great pastors. The pastor who I had for the longest, when my kids were real little, all the way up to just a few years ago, was probably the pastor that I knew the best. And I remember him most for his willingness to listen, for his willingness to hear the heart of people, for his humility in really keeping a very firm grasp on the truth that his leadership position was a sacred responsibility, and that he did not care about money or power or things. He was very much invested in the hearts of the people he shepherded, and very, very humble. I don't think, I have never seen in his in all the years that I've known him, I've never seen this sort of assumption of betterness or hierarchy or anything like that. Just a true servant who really takes seriously his position. And I saw so much love come from his heart to the people that he served. And I thought about that with Daniel. I thought that's a really good picture of a leader who is truly interested in the sacred trust of what being a leader is all about. And two, I think it's interesting because as I was typing up the verse in Bible Gateway, I'll usually type up a verse and copy and paste it there. It's helpful. And so I was typing up my key verse, which is Daniel chapter 5, 16 and 17. And I accidentally typed Daniel chapter 6, verses 16 and 17. And I brought it up. I was like, well, wait a minute, that's not my key verse. But something struck me about my mistake. So here's Daniel chapter 6, 16 and 17. I know that's not part of the reading today, but anyway, so this is what it says. So at last the king gave orders for Daniel to be arrested and thrown in the den of lions. The king said to him, may your God, whom you serve so faithfully, rescue you. A stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den. The king sealed the stone with his own royal seal and the seals of his nobles so that no one could rescue Daniel. I thought, whoa. That's not the verse that I wanted to put in, but it was very eye-opening that exactly one chapter later, this prestige and honor and robes and gold chains, all the stuff that Daniel was given was gone. And he was in the middle of the lion's den, probably praying for his life. He had been utterly discarded by the people that gave him so much power. And I thought, that's another great reason why Daniel rejected these prestigious symbols of power, because he knew it can be gone in a moment. That true power comes from having a heart, from knowing the heart of God, it comes from taking seriously the heart of God, that being in a leadership position or having certain gifts, having certain, like Daniel's gift was highly sought after in interpreting dreams. So this highly sought after leader or highly sought after gift or whatever it is, that comes with a sacredness of trust. And that Daniel was far more concerned about that sacred trust than about getting a bunch of power and fame. And I think that's really important for us to remember today. People with highly sought after leadership skills and giftings can become prideful and become entitled even. Any gift of teaching, leadership, any gifting of skill, so maybe we have some skill that's highly sought after, all of that comes from God and is all for the purpose of bringing love, hope, truth to the kingdom, to our communities, to our families. Our giftings, any leadership, if you're in a church with leadership that is squandering this power, that's not the definition of a good leader. And in our own lives, the gifts that we have, the leadership, anything that God has given us is to be used faithfully for Him. Because one day we might be enjoying the favor of power, and another minute, like Daniel, we might be in the lion's den. And our integrity needs to be the same across the board, no matter what situation we're in. So we shouldn't tarnish something sacred. God's the source of our gifts. And we need to seek out people and communities and churches where this is upheld and we see that sacred trust of leadership. Thanks for being with me here today, friends, and we'll see you next time on Read Through the Word.